All right, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. We hope that you're doing all right tonight. Welcome back. We got the subscribers up again, and tonight, as promised, we are going live.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here I am with my co-host about mental health taboos. Going to start off with an article. This is an article. It's entitled "Suffering in Silence: The Stigma Surrounding Mental Illness in the Black Community" by Paulette Parker. All right. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Services, African Americans are 20% more likely to experience serious psychological distress, such as major depression, suicide, PTSD, and anxiety than non-Hispanic whites. Disproportionate rates of poverty, joblessness, and exposure to violence are some factors. Yet, a study by the American Psychological Association found that young Blacks, especially those with higher levels of education, are significantly less likely to seek mental health services than their white counterparts. So, why are African Americans suffering in silence? Shame, lack of trust, and socioeconomic status remain barriers in mental health. Some reasons that prevent the community from seeking treatment and receiving quality of care food, lack of information and misunderstanding about mental health. Many African Americans have had difficulty recognizing the signs and symptoms of mental health conditions, leading to underestimating the effects and the impact of mental health conditions. Some may think of depression as the blues or something to snap out of. Because of the lack of information surrounding mental health issues, it's not always clear where to find help when you may need it. Also, things like faith, spirituality, and community. Community and spiritual beliefs tend to be great sources of strength and support. However, research has found that many rely on faith, family, and social communities for emotional support rather than turning to healthcare professionals, even though medical and or therapeutic may be necessary. Barriers in access to adequate healthcare make it hard to get help. Racial disparities in healthcare. I have one that's up. She took a long nap with grandma today, so excuse me. Racial disparities persist in healthcare access. For example, 40.6% of African Americans relied on Medicaid or public health insurance in comparison to 29.3 of non-Hispanic whites, according to the Office of Minority Health. That same year, 17.2 of African
Oh,
Americans were
I
uninsured in
see we have, I guess, someone. Okay.
Oh, how you doing? Good
Hey, Miss
evening.
Green, you have to get the sound on. On.
I have her
Okay,
muted
there
for
you go.
Simona to finish.
Okay, leave it. You
You
okay?
ready? You ready?
Yes, we hear you now.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
We ready?
Mm-hmm.
police. Tell me, we would know.
Can you guys hear her clearly?
Normally, say that again, dear.
I can't at all. It
I
keeps
can't
going in
hear.
and out.
Miss Leona, we can't hear you very clearly. We can't hear you very clearly.
Okay, the sound. Can you hear me now?
It's a little better.
Can you hear me good? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, just not
Can
very
you hear me?
clearly.
Is that better?
Yes, we could hear you, just not very
Is that
clearly.
better?
Hold on a second.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, it's just very choppy. Are you using a laptop?
No, for some reason my thing is not just a room enough on my iPad to bring you all up.
I can't make out what you're saying.
I'm gonna try it again though, but
I think Cassandra got off so she can help you. I can't make out what you're saying. Are you using a phone?
I'm on the phone now. I'm on the phone and wow.
Okay, Simona, we lost both of them. Now I lost them. Okay, Simona, we lost both of them. If you weren't finished, you can go ahead and finish what you were reading, and then they could join back in.
Okay.
And I'll put the banner up for the helpline.
Okay. All right. So basically, we were just talking about the reasons that many African American communities are not dealing with mental illness. Um, we left off basically talking about the barriers and access to adequate health make it hard to get help. Um, Along with that, we also have stigmas in our community. Um, a lot of people fear that it may reflect badly on their families, admission to not being able to handle family problems. Um, there was a psychologist, Monica Williams, who actually wrote in Psychology Today, and what she wrote was she found that even among African Americans who suffered greatly from mental disorders, many held negative attitudes about people who obtained mental health care. No matter how impaired they were, they didn't want to be one of those people. Um, Again, this is something that we've been dealing with for a very long time, and a lot of people feel like it wouldn't matter if we were to be one of those people either way, because in the medical field, specifically psychology, they don't know how to diagnose African American mental illness. There's definitely a lack of providers that look like us, so of course that does cause an issue with whether or not you may be able to relate to what I'm going through. So that has been one of the common reasons why many do not seek help. And it's like, even on, my elders, my parents, and born in the 60s, they've always said that they prefer not to, because they don't want to be one of.
Okay, we lost everyone, but give me a second. I will find out where everyone went. And let me just finally add this banner. Cassandra is back, and in the middle of Simona speaking, I lost her too. So is Miss Leona okay?
I'm not sure. I think something might I think her she was having difficulties with her sound.
Okay. And Simona is back. There you go.
Where's Miss Leona?
I'm not sure.
I think she's having difficulties because she didn't even pop up in the back. So she might be having difficulties. Can you text her or something?
Yeah, I texted her when I was going through the disconnection, and she said it was her sound because she was trying to put the Bluetooth on.
Was she on a cell phone?
Uh-huh.
Cell phones are actually better sometimes, depending on which one you're using. Want to go ahead and pick up where you left off, Simona?
Yeah, that's fine. We got
And
down to the part where I was talking about barriers in access to adequate health care make it hard to get help. Um, I will continue the article. Racial disparities persist in healthcare access. In 2018, for example, 40.6 of African Americans relied on Medicaid or public health insurance, in comparison to 29.3% of non-Hispanic whites, according to the Office of Minority Health. That same year, 17.2 of African Americans were uninsured, in comparison to 10.4% of non-Hispanic whites. Even if African Americans can afford a basic checkup, the American Psychology Association notes many primary care specialists lack training in the diagnosis and treatment of mental health and behavioral issues. Thus, those suffering need access to specialized care. And the fourth reason we have here is stigma and judgment in the community may make it tougher to seek help. Dr. Monica Williams wrote in Psychology Today, African Americans may be resistant to seek treatment because they fear it may reflect badly on their families, an outward admission of the family's failure to handle problems internally. Something I found in my own studies is that even among African Americans who suffer greatly from mental disorders, many held negative attitudes about people who obtained mental health care. No matter how impaired they didn't want to become one of those peoples. In many ways, I do think there is a greater stigma among the African American culture than among other cultures. Um, According to statistics, many white people will freely reference seeing a therapist in a normal conversation. It has been a common belief that Black people don't do that. Seeing a therapist is generally seen as a sign of weakness and lack of faith. There is still an active There is still an active myth among strong Black women who are supposed to be strong and present and capable for everyone in her family and neglect her own needs in the midst of a depressive episode. I've had a friend say to me, we are the descendants of those who survived the Middle Passage and slavery. Whatever you're going through cannot be that bad. I was so hurt and so angry by that statement. No depression, no depression isn't human trafficking, genocide, or slavery, but it is real and death threatening pain. And of course, there are those who did not survive those tragedies. But that comment just made me feel small and selfish and far worse than before. It made me wish I had never said anything at all. She was basically reflecting on how she was met when she decided to tell others in our community about her suffering. And that's pretty much what her article was about. She spoke specifically about the numbers, the statistics in our community, what is actually going on paper. She also referenced that many there's definitely a lack of African Americans in this health field. So with that said, the question among African Americans, are we really being um taken care of the way we need to be? Is our mental health really being considered when we are attending these doctors? For instance, um I know in a public school system itself, you have children who are those children, according to, the school or our white counterparts, they don't see them as a children that may have this going on. Immediately, they're placed in a system where they have a label put on them. It's not this child may need this. Well, it's no therapy. Immediately, there's a label attached to this child, and next thing you know, they're being
Can't hear you. Yeah.
you can't
No,
hear me.
I can,
Yeah, but same what Simona said, like she said, there's no personal skills when diagnosing these type of mental health illnesses. And I can even have experience within my own family where those have taken the steps to seek counsel, but they felt unrelatable. And then secondly, um, the misdiagnosing, you go there for maybe depression, and they, instead of trying to rehabilitate you, and get resources for you to keep upkeep yourself and maintain yourself, they rather you get a pill to substitute from what you street drugs. So we have a lot of unrelatable issues within the Black community when seeking mental help.
yeah, like she said, they dismiss it or they diagnose it. So instead of trying to help or understand, they basically disregard or or they, write you off as something to be dealt with in a particular manner, which is probably unhealthy and unfit for the situation you're in, probably not even beneficial, at least not in any of the right ways. Probably beneficial so that they can get you out of their face and off their list of, like, things to take care of. But like she said, it's very hard because they don't have a skill set, so to speak, as far as how to help people of particular minorities in those situations. They're just taught to deal with them as an issue.
Exactly. And like I was reading something from the American Psychiatry Association in New York City. They was saying the average Black person goes through anxiety, depression, just day to day. Whether you seen gun violence, RIP, you just saw your neighbor, y'all was kicking it, then now you see an rest in peace sign. So there's a lot of trauma within our communities that we face day to day.
especially even children,
I see Miss Green
experiencing
back on. Hello.
homelessness.
Yeah, she's back. I'm sorry, Simona. I
Go
muted
ahead.
her.
Yep, a lot of homelessness.
Right. They don't understand these issues. Like, it's very common for children in poor communities to um change schools more than often. Move here, move there. And these things, they tend to cause a rift in their educations because basically I'm not focused on this because it's too many things. Like changing school to schools, that's not easy. I lived through that. Meeting new people, dealing with those basic anxieties of going to class every day. Will I be teased? Teenagers. Oh, they're not gonna like me here. These type of things for us, it's no talking cure. You know what I mean? Quote unquote. I'm going to refer you to a psychiatrist for a drug, and then that should help you to cope better. Not, let's find out what the root of this problem is and address it and take care of it from there. And it's two ways, it's two ends of that spectrum. It's number one, our community doesn't want to there's secrets. We don't want anybody in our business, but on the other end, we more concerned with, I don't know who this person is who think they talking to me, and you haven't walked a day in my life. But in actuality, the problem is more so we need more of us to sit down and have these
Yeah.
therapeutic sessions with. So there's definitely an opportunity in the field. For young people growing up, that's something that we could be looking at, going to college for psychology versus psychiatry, because that's what's needed in our communities today, someone to talk to. And now in COVID-19, for people who were, going to social settings, having pastors, having, that card game once a week was doing them some justice. You know what I mean? That was an opportunity to talk, get upset about issues, and move on. That did something for the community back then. But, a lot of people are continuing to suffer in silence in COVID-19 because everything is not accessible like it was. Healthcare is a mess. In COVID-19, a lot of offices are closed down in some places. People still aren't getting that care. Virtual, everybody can't get on there. So it's still from every corner, there's still people that are slipping through the cracks.
Yes,
And
Miss
I
Green, you
guess
can hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little better.
A little better. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you.
I'm getting closer. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's just a bit choppy, but it's better than before.
Okay. I'm sorry about this. I don't know what happened.
Well, go ahead and give
Uh,
us your experience about Black unity and during your time.
I was saying that we made ourselves known to everybody in the neighborhood. And if you had a new person come in, you go to their
It's
home
still too choppy,
and invite
Cassandra.
yourself. Uh, can you hear me good now?
I can
Um,
hear you, but it's still a bit too choppy.
yeah. Okay. Um, and also, like recently, in the last 5 years, we had a new neighbor come in and I made known to them and everything. They walked to the school, and I happened to be home that day, and all
It's still,
the ambulance came to her home. So I was able to call her and let her know. Come to find out, her son is mental depressed, and he is
Cassandra, do
on
you want to
medication,
take her a different way?
and the
Yeah, Miss Green,
medication
your
was not
sound is still
working.
breaking up. We can't hear you at all.
Can we take the
Breaking
call
up.
and maybe put her on speaker?
Yes, you can.
yeah,
And then like she could listen to us on her on but she knows what we're discussing, but maybe we could put her on speaker and you
Yeah.
take her
Okay,
call.
that'll work.
That'll work. Can you do
Yes.
that, Cassandra?
Uh-huh.
No,
Just
I
Yes.
can't do that right now.
oh, you
Yes.
can't do that.
Mm-mm.
Can
My
you could
phone
text
is
me her number.
charging.
I could give her a call. You want to text me her number, Miss Leona? Cassandra?
You want me to
I'm not sure if
send?
she
Can
wants me to give her number. I'm not sure. We could just disconnect and maybe just try another caller maybe later.
All right. I'm gonna disconnect you one well for the first time. I'm gonna try and disconnect you, Miss Leona. Just try one more time, please.
okay.
Um I don't know what the issue is, but we hear some of your words, but we can't make out what you're
It's
saying.
just probably the location.
hmm
Okay. Okay. All right. We'll try it again. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's
That's
okay.
okay, Miss Green. Thank you. So you've been trying.
Yeah, thank
Uh-huh.
you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna kick it now. And she'll try one more time. Did we lose Simona too?
No, I'm here.
Oh. Did you make out any of what she was saying to piece it together for the most part? Maybe we could talk about it.
I
Well,
can't.
no, we had a conversation earlier. She was just telling me more so during her time, mental illness was more so if someone was senile, things of that nature, they would label them and, they would go about their day. It wasn't all this attacking gang violence on one another. There was more so togetherness and combining one another in efforts to progress. And she was just making a point of how if you do need to seek mental health and get these things taken care of so that you can be a better suit to society.
All the movies they made, describing like the 40s and the 50s, it was almost like people were afraid to mention mental health because, back then when you had problems going on, let's see, in like the 40s and 50s, you remember they were doing I can't remember what it was called, but basically they would go in and remove a part of your brain, and that was like the way that they were gonna control those bad behaviors. But what ended up happening is they started leaving people paralyzed. Like people literally got scared to say, hey, there might be something wrong with me, like schizophrenic episodes and things like that. And what are those, like manic depressive disorders and things of that nature. They basically scared people from wanting to say they had help because nobody really knew what this was and how to deal with it for all people. And so here we are now. It kind of still exists, but now it's like a whole group of people that are not understood. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's like across that spectrum, how do we get comfortable and feel, good about that? Like I go to a family specialist, but she's black. You know what I mean? She also, grew up poor. She's from Atlanta in the 90s, Dr. Tam. And it's like, she can relate to me, but many people, again, they aren't getting the care because number one, the insurance issues, you know, all insurance is not going to cover that. And when you have a problem with people who can barely afford to put food on the table, now you're asking them to be able to pay out of pocket for a specialist. So again, it's not accessible, you know, and it's known that people have these issues. It's known. There's not even like back in the day when you were on food stamps or government programs, they had things to aid young people who needed sessions. Like they had mental health counseling at DFACS offices. They had these things available, but none of those things exist anymore. So it's like where do they get help? No more free services. Pastor used to be free, but churches are closing down. People are bashing churches left, right. But for some people, that was that one place they convene once a week to get themselves together to go on for the rest of the week. That was something. Y'all remember DeVoe Street Baptist Church, people going over there on Sunday, acting up the rest of the
Oh,
week,
oh yeah,
going.
where was we used
She
to
said
go? They used to
acting up
pick
the
us
rest of
up
the.
on the yellow bus.
Hmm?
You talking? What are you talking about? You talking about with the kids?
Yeah, and we used to go skating.
Oh, Yogi
She's
Bear.
talking about yeah.
Yeah,
That's what that was. When we
I'm
went on the
done.
yes.
I
Oh, I
hardly,
used
I
to love
hardly
Yogi
went to
Bear.
that.
I used to love Yogi Bear.
yeah.
Inside the
And
little
and it
room
was
with the
like a ritual.
bleachers.
They come to pick you up. You about to have a blast, and those are called support systems. They came to pick
Yeah.
up young kids in the cities that were in impoverished communities, and they made their day.
That
It was
was
a
a
fun day for
nonprofit
us to escape what
organization.
we was going through for the
Yeah,
day.
No. And they always had remember the lights would go down and we would have to receive the message. And then when the lights came back up, we would get snack time, y'all.
Yeah,
I
it
used
was a
to
day
love
of fun.
Yogi
You didn't want to
Bear.
miss it. You didn't want to
Yeah.
miss it.
You didn't want to miss it. Yup. Every Saturday. Those things don't exist no more. Like even in the neighborhoods, there's no more boys and girls clubs. There were places that
They
parents knew,
have Ys, right?
huh?
They have Ys, right?
Yeah,
YMCA's.
they have the wise, but even with that, it's still like impersonal now. As you go in, you know, you work out, whatever your
They don't know
membership
the kids.
pays for. It's not like how we had. It was sociable. We had soccer. We, you know, we met with other people and we commemorated amongst each other. It's not like
When
that.
you came to the door, they knew you. Like, say she walked through the door with her mother, they know everyone in the building. There used to be a desk at the front in all of those neighborhood places that when you came in, it was immediate love. Like, hey, what brings you in today? And you used to get a tour, you and your parent, and they were all government funded. Like they were all nonprofit organizations, something for the kids to do. Like I used to run track and field for Boys and Girls Club out of Manhattan. Like we used to travel. They took us to different states to participate in things. Like it was something to connect. Like they would get your parents involved. Like for those who had working parents, like the coaches come to your house. Like they wanted to know what was going on with the person. You wasn't just a number somebody checked they taken every week. And that's the crazy part because in society we become so hypersensitive that everybody is offended, but it's like nobody is taking those extra steps to find out what's going on so we can stop being offended. And that's what used to go on back in the day. Like you come in here acting crazy, they're coming to your house. They making the phone calls. Like it was just more checks and balances in the community
Hmm.
itself that you didn't need outside help. You didn't need medical intervention because again, those villages were present. But now it's just a different world. It's just
And
a
then,
different
like you
world.
said, I think the one major key is being relatable. Like you say, you got a psychiatrist, and you know, she come from the same walks of life, and that's beneficial versus someone that may not had a crack parent, and you got a crack parent, and they like ooh and ah, and it's too many, is unbalanced. So I believe
Yeah.
that we do need some more brown people in that field, in the psychiatry field.
It would be also to see more giving back amongst those who are, because
Mm.
many that um over the years, like when I was in divorce counseling and things like that sort in my first marriage, that stuff wasn't cheap. Like we were afforded the opportunity to be able to do that, to be able to have someone that actually was relatable and cared. It was not a small price. And so, in areas where again they can't afford the proper coverage to be able to have someone relatable, they're having more so someone who's appointed to them because this is where the state says you have to go. This is who accepts this insurance. And 9 times out of 10, it's just like a public defender. I hear your case, I make a judgment, and I dismiss your case next. You know what I mean? So it's just a different avenue. And then, on our behalf, it breaks down to what's more important. In some cases, that new flashy outfit versus what's going on in your mind, we got to start making better choices on that end. You want to be cute or you want to be mentally prepared to deal with anything so that you can build and stay consistent. You know what I mean? And that's what I think a breakdown is as well. Like we just not focused on that
I don't
because
think
again,
people are. I don't even think I can disagree on that. I don't think people properly know how to even take the proper steps in our community. For one,
yeah,
when you
because of the
take it, when you
stigmas.
examine what's been going on throughout this president moments, the crack era in the '80s, people just prayed. When you come from a
Yeah,
generation when they just tell you to pray
yeah,
but don't act, it's a scripture in the Bible where it say, yeah, you have to pray, but you also got to put the work in.
yeah,
You
yeah,
got to put the work in, and once you put the work in, you'll see the results. If you don't know how, you don't know a way. You don't know a way. And like you said, a lot of people are suffering in silence. They said 85% of black people daily go through some type of traumatic situation and don't even speak on it.
Mhm.
And then the next day
Because
is
it's
something
regular.
else. And then the
It has
next two
become
days is
normal.
something else. And then that adds on. And then it becomes normal. And then there's another generation that sees that and then they follow pursuit. So then you
Yeah.
have a lot of generations that's going through traumatic situations and not healing. How do you come from how you break away from that? Nobody tells us about psychiatry and what are the benefits of having one. The only time you see a psychiatry if you got a CPS case.
Yeah.
Like Simona said,
But
it's a
then you
stigma.
already is already a label. When once you have a CPS case, it's already understood how you're gonna be dealt with. You
Yeah, but
know,
I'm just
so
yeah, exactly. That's why I made that point. Is the only time we see a therapist like that should alarm people in the black community. The only time we see a therapist is a jail institutional bound
yeah,
probation officers or a child protective services, and that's a shame.
yeah, yeah.
But then, like she said earlier, then they're not even ready to talk and understand or be helpful. They're ready to label, judge, or write a prescription
Yeah, move
and
on
write you off.
to the next similar case.
Like I have a family member. They grew up in the early 50s, and during that time it was nothing, no resources about mental health. They just dealt with it, and this particular family member found the way to cope with it, but it was a negative cope. It was drinking, and
That's
they
what I was
drank
gonna.
themselves to death, even hurt family members along the way. And that just goes to say that health awareness in our community is short on the priority list. Like you said, it's short. It's short, and it needs to be. That's why we had this forum. Because before, even day to day, I never hear my friends like, "Oh, I'm seeing a therapist," or like I can hear somebody mom pass away. I know a lot of people parents pass away. And they ain't never seen a therapist.
My cousin
You know,
has, and
like though,
she's been seeing one because it's a void. You know, you have to talk. Like I don't know. I don't know. You just I feel like I've never been one to be quiet anyway. Like I've always expressed what was going on the inside. And back in the day, people thought I was crazy. Like, but I don't know. I just knew early on that you had to get things out. I will say that over the years, I've definitely cleaned up how I express myself because as a teenager and growing up young, it was always in a form of outbursts. Like and that's what gave the perception that something is wrong with her. Like in school, they would be like, "Oh, you know," they would call my mom, and it would be this long drawn out thing just to try to give me some drugs and send me back to class. But my mother was like, I'm not giving my child that. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. But truly, I was just suffering the absence of one of my parents. Being raised by a single mother. That's all that was going on. But she got, help because basically I was having a problem with male teachers. Um, Something that's very common. Like I was that girl in the class that I didn't want to listen to nothing that a male teacher had to say to me because I was mad at every man in the world because my father wasn't present. But my mother was like, this isn't gonna be some, case for y'all to make nobody famous. Y'all are not giving my daughter no medication, and this is what we doing. She got a second job, and I was going to counseling in third and fourth grade. She was like, we moved out of the project. We moved to East New York, and that was where we started life over. That was just it. We went to counseling, and it was that, and I was able to heal from that. Later in life, other things did happen, but again, it was something that I had to continuously make the choice to do. But a lot of people, they don't even realize that the behavior is not something that's okay. Because, like we were saying earlier, it's been so normalized to behave this way in our communities that we don't even see a problem. But anywhere else you go, people are looking, and they're like,
The ghetto.
like, woo child. Having outbursts in public is not normal. Talking to people
If
loud,
your
making a
skin
scene,
tone was
not
different, having an
normal.
outburst in
Like,
public would be normal. Well, there she go again. Damn,
they're
daddy done
from
left.
Atlanta Housewives normalize that. Like, all these reality shows have normalized fighting and acting crazy in the black community. Like, that's not a thing. But on television, they making it look like this is what we need to do. And that
Yeah,
goes in with the
but that
very first
always
episode.
existed. Look at Jerry Springer and Maury, who's the baby
Yeah.
daddy. You got
Yeah.
all of us going lined up
Brainwashing.
for a free hotel
Brainwashing.
and a free 5 minutes of fame, and
Yeah.
in actuality, you getting shamed and embarrassed.
Yep. I think it's literally whatever, like in okay. In communities of color, it's almost like the media, like social media, television, you could tell which group is under attack at the time by what you see in media. Like at Jerry Springer and all of that, it was the baby daddies, and Maury, the baby daddies. Then you look at Atlanta Housewives and Married to Medicine and all these different shows. Now we attacking the black woman. Like, it's like each generation or each couple of years, it just changed who's under attack. But at the same time, none of it is normal behavior. But they're normalizing it. And again, I don't know. I don't know where that comes
They're
from, but
normalizing it to make you have that, like you said, that stigma. Just like when you have a particular rapper or a particular, songwriter that only talks about sex or drugs. That's
yeah,
another thing to reel people into that lane. It's like if
yeah.
you're gonna keep up with the Joneses, imagine if going to seek some mental help was as catchy as buying a new pair of Jordans.
You would have to be an independent artist for a song like that, because no record label is putting out a song to encourage nobody to go get. Where's Ebony
Yo,
at? We need a cut right now. We need to produce Ebony a track because she can reach some people
Oh
for
yeah, that's
real.
why
She
that's what
is
I had
skilled.
loved about her going to college together. That she just was a natural creator.
Yes. Yes, we need a YouTube video about mental health in the African American community. Yes, we do. I hope she listening tonight. She already got it done and she listening tonight.
wait, let me
Yes,
take
ma'am. She was very talented.
this.
You were saying, Ameris?
I was gonna say it's not healthy to disregard it. And like when they disregard you or try to disregard where you're coming from instead of trying to be helpful, it's like they also making it worse for the individual. So over the years to come, even if you're seeking help from a particular area where they don't know how to deal with you because you're a particular minority and they just don't know how to address those issues because they don't understand where you're coming from, or they're taught to just say, screw it, let's give her some pills. You're actually making this person worse in the long run.
Yeah,
So then
because
later on, if something were to happen, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to say who's to blame, but who's to blame? Especially if that person did initially seek out the assistance that, they thought they needed or they actually needed at the time.
even with psychiatrists and prescribing these drugs, a lot of the time the prescription coverages change so much. Do you know how many times these people are switched around on this medication like that? None of them come without major side effects. So
Yeah.
literally, you got people taking these drugs, and then on one end is treating the a condition, but on the back end is also causing another. And when they go off of these meds, that now they can't regulate at all. Like, it's even worse once they get off the medication for whatever reason they're unable to, continue getting their prescription. Now it's an even bigger problem because it's a form of addiction. They increase and decrease the prescription when they're able to manage it. And now once they lose insurance coverage, then that's when you have people walking around on the street talking to themselves because they're off their meds, being arrested because they're off their meds, and being, going through the justice system process when clearly you know that this is not a, your typical
Yeah,
offender, you
just
Well,
know?
just
you
remember it was
essentially
a
set
couple
them
of
up.
months ago. Y'all remember that incident where the police beat on the mentally ill man? He was naked, and they
Yeah.
called on him saying he was acting crazy, but in that actual reality, he was a mental patient. They just
Yeah.
didn't know how to cope with him.
Yup.
You have that going
Was
on
it
day to day.
was it somebody that joined us, or was it us saying that during COVID? It might have been your cousin, but during COVID, you didn't notice the amount of, it seemed like mental illness, as far as you, like what you just said, you can go out into the street and you'll see patients like running through the street,
Yeah.
or
It's
randomly on the corners, or randomly in situations where it's like, what just happened? Where did they come from? And you can tell they're not just regular individuals going out to the store, out to work. They've escaped from wherever they were getting help from.
we used to have that in Cooper too. Remember the mental hospital over there? Like people used to come out
Hmm.
and be in the neighborhood as well. Um, it's always the same. Like there's most of the time they're easily recognizable. Like in those cases, rather.
It's like it's a setup. It's kind of like what I just said. When you seeking the help that you need, and in a lot of situations, like what we've been saying the whole time, you get dismissed, and or you get written off with a prescription, or you get disregarded, and then you have the aftermath. And who's to blame? Because essentially, no offense, but once you put somebody on a particular medication and they get tweaked, what kind of help you're going to give them afterwards? You can't bring that back. A lot of the times, you can't bring that back. So now you've essentially created a whole system set up for people that are going to be set to get on this medication, or to basically go this type of crazy, or go this so far out that no one's going to be able to help them. And they do they do have a lot of locations psychiatric wise where they have the things you were saying, with doing things with the brain, trying to deal with, tap into certain parts of people's mental, because they're trying to control the individual instead of trying to help the individual. It's 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 a fucking industry. Also, that's what people keep forgetting. Those places are also in business. Those places are also, people get money when they write prescriptions. People get money when more people, just like a jail, the more prisoners, the more profit.
And I feel like the only solution, like Simona was saying, how do we get past this? I feel like the only solution is to have more of us in these fields. And secondly, to also help support one another. It takes nothing to call someone. You never know. Like we listed the certain mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, eating disorders. You have so many people walking around that's unfit day to day. Refer them, listen to them, hear where they're going, where they're coming from, where they're going, and try to just be a vessel to help. We need more people to help and make a difference. Not to help to hurt, but help to make a difference.
We need help changing the narrative.
And what did you say
That too.
earlier? That a woman was trying to express herself and they said it's not like you were in slavery?
Oh
You
yeah,
remember
that article you was
earlier?
reading.
Oh, she was that was the psychologist Monica Williams. She was basically hurt because she had decided to disclose what was going on with her. And that's literally what I just was saying to Cassandra just now. Cassandra was saying we need support. And I was saying yes, because we need help in our communities changing the narrative surrounding mental illness. Um mental illness is such a, in our community is seen as something that's a like almost like a comparable to what you would think of a derogatory term in other communities, you know like it's like, oh, you crazy, that one little cuckoo, those jokes. It's not funny because it's real. So and that's what she was saying. She expressed to one of her co-workers that she was hurt, she was going through some things, and their response was, you come from people who survived the middle passage, so basically saying if they got through slavery, why can't you get through whatever it is that you're going through? And she was basically saying, I was hurt because, yes, those are travesties within itself. Hey, Santos. But
Hey,
this is
Asante.
reality and this is our time. And the struggle is different. And we going through what we're going through. They went through what they went through. So she was basically hurt by the fact that it was just put off as being something that she needed to get over, not something that she needed help. Um,
Not something that she needed to work through.
right, because the narrative is wrong. The narrative is seen as this is not something we should be speaking out on, getting help with. It said that you be quiet, you move on with life, and you get over it. You pray through it and you talk to whoever. But no, we need support. We need people to change what's going on in the communities. We need providers that are competent in what's going on in our neighborhood to be able to help us. We need commercials of more Black people seeking help, saying that, hey, you know how they make the commercials. I don't want to see no commercials with our people being offered a drug. I want to see a psychologist. I don't want nobody giving me medication,
We've seen enough of that. We've seen
I've
enough
seen
of
enough of
that.
that. And that's what the commercials are. They come out with a new drug. Now you got Black people in these commercials telling them to go get on another drug. It's like, no. Because number
Hey,
one,
Samuel
the
Rodriguez,
health
how
care.
you doing?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Can't you stop and think for a minute? Because they always don't. There's like so many narratives of the strong Black woman and the strong Black female, and essentially you're also helping to create that narrative because you're not allowed to be anything but that if you can't even seek the mental assistance that you need when you're trying not to be exactly what they're expressing is the wrong thing to be. Don't
Yeah.
take everything under your wing. Don't control everything. Don't walk through fire. But when you have nothing left to do but to walk through fire and you're trying to discuss the fact that you don't want to walk through the fire, or you're tired of burning your feet from walking through the fire, well, all that's left is to walk through the fire. Then what? You're essentially creating that type of individual. It's not as drastic as putting somebody on pills and taking away their psyche, their whole psychiatric ability to even think for themselves. But it's the same thing as creating a situation where you're now having an individual become something that they might not necessarily want to be, but have to be in that sense.
Yeah, just like sugaring over, oh, I did it. I worked 3 jobs while you're not working 3 jobs. Everybody's journey is different. We got to be respectable amongst other people's feelings, be respectable of what they going through. It might not be the same as what we going through. And that's what we got to stop doing, being so judgmental, comparing and contrasting. Just figure out how can you be a help, not a hurt. We not helping a hurt. We helping to help. That
Well,
has to be the
sometimes your
goal.
journey is what it was because, like what we're discussing now, no one opened the doors for you to have another avenue so that your journey didn't have to be what it was. You know what I mean? It's the road you maybe had to take, not necessarily one you wanted to take. But then when someone else is trying to do it a different way or trying to, open a lane so that you can, go maybe not the same exact way, but at least do it in a way where it's constructive and positive and not so, how you say, draining. It shouldn't be draining to live a life that you're supposed to be actually living. Work, like you said, working 3, 5 jobs and do it. That's not a badge of honor. you
That's
know
quite stressful. That's quite heart attack. That's quite
Okay.
heavy.
to articulate it in the politically correct terms, it is
Yeah.
quite stressful on the mental psyche. Dealing with all of those different individuals every time you clock into each particular workplace. One workplace may require you to say, hi, may I take your order? The next workplace might be like, excuse me, thank you for calling Blockbuster. Like what? Blockbuster don't even exist. I know, but I'm back here trying to collect the debt. Then another place might be like, hi, thank you for calling. And then it's like you got 5 different personalities. Then you got to go home. You got to be mommy or daddy, or you got to be mommy and daddy. Then when you wake up, you got to be bus driver because you got to take the kids to school. You done clocked into like 10 jobs. You ain't even go to bed.
Yeah. Oh, and Santos, we every day is a good day above ground. Thank you for giving us good vibes and wishing us a good weekend. We hope you had a good weekend too, and thank you for tuning in. We're talking about mental health taboos, how it consists in the communities, and what solutions and strategies that we need to take to further ahead.
Yeah, it can be. But you know what? I don't like that word, Santos. I don't. I know you have to like Simona said, you got to express yourself and say things. But in my field of work, I've always learned that the first person to use the word overwhelmed when in the workspace, like right now we're discussing things, so we could say like what we just discussed was overwhelming. But in the workplace, when someone's trying to use that word, it always felt like they weren't yet overwhelmed. And then when they use that word, they were 10 times more overwhelmed, if that makes sense. It's like they were setting themselves up to be overwhelmed even more so than what they normally would have been by constantly expressing, this is overwhelming, this is overwhelming. This is
I
like,
feel like at certain jobs, I know in certain jobs they do give you like a spa giveaways for the to relieve stress levels. I
Yeah.
feel like in certain jobs there should be a resource for you to be able to relieve certain stress levels. Like I think that's so necessary. Like I think there's a lot of things that need to be changed. And like Simona said, the first narrative is us being the change that we want to see. Let's start being more resourceful. Let's start having these open conversations. What hey, how you feel today? What affected you? Oh yeah, I was feeling like that too.
oh my
Let's start
gosh.
having more open dialogue. Let's start being more understanding. And then we can take the steps that are necessary.
I was gonna say, oh my gosh, so simple. And we all come from New York, but we all move around. So how different is it just to say good morning with a smile on your face when you're outside of New York versus inside of New York, though? Isn't it like everyone else starts their day different outside of New York? It's like, good morning, hi, how are you? In New York, it's like, shut the fuck up. It's like, oh
See,
my
over
gosh.
in the South, they don't play that. Down when I first moved down here, you don't walk into no room as a young person and not speak. Like it just was not a thing. Like people down here when I first came, I noticed they'll look in your face like they like, good morning, how you doing? If you don't say nothing back, they look in your face. You know, that's how it was in the South when I came here. That was always a thing. People always ask how you doing and they expect an answer. It was not just a, oh, hey, how are you back? This
Yeah,
was,
that's that southern hospitality.
Southern
That's the
hospitality.
southern, yeah, southern hospitality versus a
Yeah,
Yankee upbringing.
Oh, Santos said in New York, they look at you like you're on drugs.
yeah.
Yeah, you better not
That
speak to
is true.
somebody. They already know you out of town once you start saying hello.
Mm,
You're out of town, or you know what I get a lot? You can't be all black. Why? Because I didn't come up in your cab, curse
yeah,
you out, and treat you in certain ways. I've gotten that a lot.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
because
oh,
if
where's
we
your
just
family
look at it,
from?
y'all, look at
And
it,
that's
some of the
sad.
things that we do to ourselves, why wouldn't we other people feel uncomfortable around us?
They're already set to feel uncomfortable around you. So imagine now if you sort out mental health from individuals who have the same perception because they are unaware of what it's like. You know what I mean? So now you mean to tell me these people have to be in charge of helping you move through or get through something in particular that they can't even identify with in the first place?
Yeah, that's a problem. That's what needs to be changed. We need more relatable people.
Yeah.
Oh, Sammy said NYC employees have the EAP program. I actually get stress relief emails all the time. Do the emails help, Sammy? Have you ever taken advantage of the
And
program?
what do the EAP program does? What are the benefits of it? Is it just emails, or they give you certain? It's a program where they send you somewhere and help you relieve stress. Gym. I know some companies like NYC Corrections. They have like a fitness program for their employees where they can go and train.
Miss Leona, I mean, really thank you for constantly trying. I appreciate
Yes.
that. Can you hear us, Miss Leona? Oh gosh, we lost her.
I wonder, is mental illness amongst Latino communities perceived as the same thing? Like, do they offer? I mean, do they also suffer from lack of caregivers? Is the stigma also the same in their communities as far as this is just something that we don't do, is quiet kept? It would be nice if one of our Latino followers could chime in on that.
Do
Cause
Right.
you
like,
Yeah,
think
that's
so,
good.
Sammy?
He said,
huh?
I've actually gone to a few mediation classes. Sam, your
Meditation.
mediation is good. Mediation,
Meditation.
meditation, excuse me, meditation, yoga, all of that is good stress relievers. That's a blessing that your job even offers that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, Sammy, you can join us or you could chat. Tell us if that's normal in the Spanish community. You know, I'm Spanish, but I mean, you know what I mean. If that's normal um for individuals to seek out mental health, or is it perceived exact? Oh, Santos, yes, it's perceived exactly the same. Major stigma behind mental illness. It's swept under the rug.
Whatever happened to Taraji P. Henson's? Europe, she had a campaign um that was centered
Yeah,
around changing the stigma in our communities. You never really heard anything about it though.
I think she's doing a show. I think she's doing web series, like web interview type situations with individuals. But I haven't really, you know how things get promoted and then you don't see it anymore. That's pretty much Sammy agreed with A Santos. So pretty much, so basically the minorities, because like I said earlier, unless you have a particular skin tone, when you express certain emotions, you're just going to be written off, loca en la cabeza, or, oh shit, she's about, he or she is about to go shoot up something, or something extremely negative or so far left that they've got to write you a prescription or write you off or disregard you or take you out of the normal group setting, or like Simona said earlier, when she was in the schools, the way they would treat her, it's just, you got to do something with your child. And it's like, my child is fine. My child is expressing herself. And she doesn't need to be put on anything you want to give her that is supposed to alter, you know, her body, so to speak. Miss Leona, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
it's
can hear
better.
you. It's better.
It's better. Um, okay. Um, I was stating that you need to know your people in the neighborhood. Get to know everyone. Communicate is the key. The family that moved here in the neighborhood about 5 years ago, the mother worked in the school.
It's not. Miss Leona, we can't make out what you're saying. I really want to try to help. I don't know what it is that I could tell you to fix.
I don't know
Do
either.
you have it
I'm
on
trying
your Wi-Fi?
everything. Yes,
You
it's
try your
connected to
Bluetooth
the
again?
Wi-Fi.
Try your Bluetooth again.
Wait, are you using a Bluetooth?
Yes, I am.
Can you not use the
Yeah,
Bluetooth?
take the Bluetooth off.
Hopefully she'll come back. Yo, props to Miss
Yeah,
Leona.
she's trying her best.
Cause
Shout out
I
to Miss
hope I have
Brown.
that stamina to keep coming back.
Yeah, she's over 70 years old. Not only is it late, she's still trying to make efforts to be a guest tonight.
I
Thank you
really
so much.
appreciate it. She's coming back. I see her. Hold on. She hasn't popped up. But I see her. Can you, Miss Leona, can you try not to use the Bluetooth?
Yeah, I can try.
Maybe the Bluetooth is what's causing the static.
Cut it off. Can you hear me now?
I had somebody show up to my house unannounced. I'll be right back.
Bless her heart. She coming back. Let me see. Oh, there she go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we have
Yes.
success.
Eh, Oh,
Thank you
wonderful.
so much.
Oh, I kept
Praise
trying.
God.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Miss Bree,
Yeah.
start it up. Start the engine going.
Okay. I was trying to express that communication means a whole lot with your neighbors. And a lady moved into a neighborhood about 5 years ago. And in doing so, she worked in a school system. And I happened to be home one day, and the ambulance was at her home. So I know what school she was working at. I called her to let her know this was going on. Later on that evening, she expressed to me that her son was mentally challenged, and I didn't know that. So we got to know each other real well. The son got to know my husband real well, and my husband worked in the garden here. So he would go down and help him in the garden a lot, and they got to be real close. And he can come down to the house and you talk to my husband, and they, interact with one another. Communication is very important. You can't know your neighbor without talking to them. You have to be a person in the order of saying, if I have problems, how is my neighbor going to know that without talking with them? We don't talk to one another enough. We do not reach out to one another enough. We don't know what that person is going through. A lot of time you can diffuse a situation if you understand the person that's going through it. It is very sad nowadays that it has gotten to the point where people are closed off from each other, even family closed off from one another. They pray, but God also says action. And part of that action is talking to other people. You can't understand without talking. Drugs have gotten into our neighborhood. The Black Panthers tried to stop the drugs, and the FBI shut them down, started trying to kill them. People wanted to have money, and so the drugs got into our neighborhoods, into our black neighborhoods. Many black families do not believe in psychology, psychiatrists going to them. If you know that doctor created the doctors to come and help you mentally, physically, to help you live longer, then why are you scared to take your sibling to a doctor to discuss and understand the what's going on with that individual? I went to the doctor's office one day, just like with this coronavirus, and one lady said, I'm listening to my doctor, but I'm not going to listen to the scientist. I said, well, don't you know that your doctor is a scientist? He had to go to school to understand the body. He had to go to school to understand the medication to give you so it will not affect you. And she shut down and didn't say anything. I don't think she realized what she was saying. So it's communication, it's love, treating the person like you wish to be treated. And we have gotten away from that.
Yes, thank you, Miss Green, for that. Can you tell us, in comparison today, um, what's difference within the unity that was taking place during the time that you grew up in? Can you tell us how it has decreased the black unity?
Well, number one is the drug. Number two is that parents and grandmothers are no longer. You have a problem with women who have had babies and they get tired and they get distraught and they may even hurt the child because the child is hollering and they don't understand why this child is hollering. Back in my day, we call them big mamas or grandmother would come in, help you,
Yeah.
let you rest, teach you how you are supposed to handle the baby. And the children will grow better. Too many ladies now want to be as old as their daughters and don't want to be grandmother. There is division. The division is killing us. The division is destroying us. We don't have love for one another anymore. We don't pray anymore. We don't believe God is the head of our life anymore. When you get back to those values, then you will see a better uh, communication among the families. We don't even have family reunions anymore, even before this coronavirus came about. You don't have that. Where the young people can sit down with grandmother and learn about their family, where they came from, how they got here. When mother teach the child to respect the older person in the family, I always call my members who are older than me. And I had a relative once to say, I called them, but they never call me back. You don't look at it like that when you have an older person. A lot of times, the older person may forget to call you. You don't know where their mind is. If you call that person, that makes them feel good. You call that person, that makes them feel part of your life, and they will laugh. You'll give them joy. And this is what we're supposed to do. The Chinese still do it. They will honor their older siblings, mothers, fathers, bring them and put them in their home and take care of them.
That
I
is
used
so
to work,
true. They don't never go to the nursing home.
uh-uh. I worked for a doctor at one time, and I was hired to come in, take care of his mother while him and his wife was at work. We used to do that. Do you remember back in the day where the older person would be sick and you have the hospital bed in the living room
Yeah.
and they take care of them until, the Lord takes them on? You don't do that anymore. Two people are too busy.
Too busy.
They
Yep.
forget. And they forget also if they get older, they may be in that same situation. And how would they feel if someone just throw them away? I call it. I grew up taking care of my mother and my father. My father in my senior year in high school became with cancer. My mother was ill since my age of 13. When dad passed, I was a freshman in Indiana University. My mother was still alive. I would go to school, come back home, make sure that she ate, make sure she had everything she needed, cook for her, clean the house, and I worked until the Lord taken her 6 years later. And I believe that I have been blessed for doing so. People forget the Lord will bless you when you reach out and take care of your older sibling. And they have gotten away from this, and being by them getting away from that, you have this problem now with no communication. They won't listen to a person like my age. They think I'm old phobic. But sometimes the old values still work.
Yes,
They're
they
all
do.
that works. That's all that
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I wish and pray that it would get back to that. Reading the Bible, knowing how to treat people. That's what we're here for. God put us all on this earth to help one another. If I see one of you ladies falling in the street, I'm supposed to go out there and pick you up and see what's going on and make it better for you if I can, or get someone to help you. That's what we're here for. He don't want me to be looking at you and say, forget it. You know, but that's what's going on. They've gotten away from the values that has been taught throughout the year.
And with that going on, thank you, Christopher
Oh,
Sam.
Hmm.
With that going on, Miss Green, the mental illnesses start accumulating with all the bad
Yeah,
things going on, all the things that
yeah,
we haven't been learning and keeping up with traditions.
so
That's
why do
why
you
we
think
have
that
what we
is?
have.
yes, it is
Why do you
piling
think
up.
that is?
Getting
Why do
worse
you
and
think
worse.
that is, Miss Leona? Like
Uh-huh.
everything you were expressing with all that information gets passed down from generation to generation. So like I know the
Hmm.
three of us, we have strong connections with our grandparents. So
Yes,
it seems like sometimes it skips a generation maybe, or maybe sometimes
yes,
it doesn't
yes.
necessarily impact, the grandmother, the mother, the child, and the next kin. Why do you think that is?
It skipped because they stopped teaching and they got on drugs. The mother want to send the child in the room and work on the computer or watch the TV instead of having the child at the dinner table eating with everybody.
Mm.
You remember eating with your parents and then you had discussion at the table. They don't do that anymore. The child could just say dinner ready, they come and get a plate and go to their room. They stop teaching. And then also, like I said, the drugs, because the parents, what they do, they take drugs and they don't want to be bothered. So that stops communication, that stops teaching, you see. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Somewhere it's got to be reconnected. And it needs to start now before it gets any worse. I know my mother used to say the Bible has to fulfill itself. So if you read the Bible, a lot of stuff is going on nowadays. You can see it in the Bible, okay? Before God comes back. But he also said you can pray. You must pray. And I believe if you pray and listen to what he tells you to do, a lot of things would be, null and void. It will deceive. His teaching has stopped and it has caused that division.
Simona, would you like to ask Miss Green some questions? Because Christopher Sam said you sisters dropping some sure reality tonight. Come on, let's keep it hot, Simona.
Miss Leona fought to get on the chat, and she's here, and she's dropping knowledge. Drop
No,
any
I
I'm
was
questions
trying.
just,
that you
you
have.
know, like she said, like when I talk to my elders, it's the same thing. Like they all say the same thing. As they have said that everything that's going on in our community is basically the aftermath of drugs and unfair justice systems. Like, the
Hmm.
family changing, the fathers being removed from the home, the drugs being
Yes,
put in our communities, and the drugs took away the mother and put the father in jail. You know, they
yes,
basically created the perfect environment. It caused burnout in our community
And
yes,
mental trauma.
and
That's what this
mental
topic
trauma.
is
yes,
about. It caused
Absolutely.
trauma.
Yes. We
yes,
have suffered.
yes.
We have
I
suffered a
was,
great deal.
mhm. I was one of the parents. I divorced, had 3 children I had to take care of, and I prayed a lot and raised those children to the best of my ability. I was on aid at one time, but I still tried to find a job to work. I also made myself go back to school, Ross Medical Center, and studied something. I didn't stop, you know, but a lot of parents relied on the welfare to take care of them, and they lived in bad homes. Not everybody, but some of them did. And because the man left them, they felt they had no value because they didn't have a husband or a man around. And there was nobody there to talk to them to give them strength. Abuse, men abusing women, you know, and them taking it, and the children seeing it, and no one there to say, you don't have to take that. You are stronger than that. People have to talk, and they're not doing that.
That's what we just said. It's all about
That yeah.
communication. Christopher Sam said, and trust me, y'all are bringing the brightest light. Yes, that's why this forum has been created to set a platform for generations to come. This might be 2021 now, but 2025 they can come and listen on to this episode about mental taboos and awareness, and they can
Hmm.
kind of have a platform to piggyback on. It's been too many generations lost. We've been
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
generation that's been lost for many years, and now we got to pick up the pieces and move forward and continue to pass on this information.
And did
Yes.
you hear what she said? She said that the lack of communication in discussing these issues, and that's literally what has happened. Instead of
Hmm.
addressing it, understanding it, and
Hmm.
combating it, we turned the
Hmm.
shoulder and made it normal. And that became
Hmm.
even more problem because when you don't address what's going on, the same thing. Like if you don't talk to, who is that? Sigmund Freud, was it? That said if you
Hmm.
don't handle those things that caused you great trauma in childhood, as you become an adult, you'll cause a breakdown because
Hmm.
those three different parts of your brain will begin to clash. And that's really what
Hmm.
is the cause of this mental illness, not addressing these things. So as you
Hmm.
grow, they just continue to go unchecked. and it just worsens. And any
Worse,
and
and now
everything
you
you
got to
come
drink.
around is
Yep, now you got to
just a
drink.
problem.
Yep. Now you
Mhm.
got to
That's
smoke.
right.
Now you got to do all these other
You got to
things they
cope.
put in place to set us back instead of taking the proper provisions and seeking the proper help in order to move forward. We've going
Yeah.
backwards. We have taken 10 step backwards instead of 10 step forward.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
I think if there's anything that we want people to understand from this episode is that here we have Mrs. Leona who has walked this life and she's still here. You know what I mean? And that's a prime example. And I hope that people are taking that as hope and they're understanding. If somebody is watching, they understanding. Like my biggest thing about tonight is that if we could change somebody's life, that maybe tomorrow they will. I don't even care if it's
Mhm.
Google some information to try to get some help. You know what I mean? We got the
Yeah.
number flashing on the screen. You never know who's about to break down because, like you said, we're just not talking anymore. We're not communicating with each other
Mm-mm.
no more. You know that back in the day when you had your group of friends that they looked out. Like, look at my mother. It was Bunny, Sheila, my
My
mother
mother,
Claudette. You know, the whole
Mhm.
building. You had
Mhm.
that source of community. Yeah, they did things to piss each other off and got on each other's nerves, but at the end of the day, everybody knew who their family was, and we
That's
grew
right.
together. We learned from each other. The community helped each other, and you just
Mhm.
weren't going to do certain things because somebody was going to address that.
That's right.
And we
That's
just don't
right.
we just don't have that anymore. It's like nobody cares. Everybody is so-called minding their own business, but your community is your business.
Yeah.
exactly.
Neighbor is
Yeah.
your business. Because if they got
Yeah.
problems and they doing stuff, it's affecting your house. That's your
Y-
business.
That's right.
You know?
Never
Thank you
in my
so
We just
much,
gotta
day.
get that.
Christopher Sam, for listening. That's one of our greatest listeners. We love all of them, but Christopher Sam has been tuning in since day one. Shout out to
Mhm.
Christopher Sam.
All right.
We know them. They comment all the time. Sammy Rodriguez, A. Santos, and Christopher Sam. They be fully in tune. So thank y'all. They've been here. They be in every episode. They're very interactive. So thank you.
They keep us going because sometimes we sacrifice our time and we don't know we coming across and bringing light, but you guys, always give us the extra encouragement and motivation to let us know that this is what is needed in the community and against our culture. We need to continue to have these conversations. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And
I
I
think
think that it's a beautiful thing that you all are doing, and just keep on. More people will tune in, more people will listen, and you can't get the word out unless you're going through the news media or the podcast like you're doing. I think this is wonderful. Keep it up.
Thank you, Miss Green, too. And we appreciate Miss Green. That's my girl. She wasn't gonna give up on me. We got some real diehard supporters. We appreciate you, Miss Green.
No
Yes,
problem.
they
Glad to
kept
be
coming
here.
back and coming back, and I'm like, yes, thank you for not giving up
And it
on us.
was all worth it. Like we
Yeah.
said, so many people don't even know what the term Big Mama mean. We got hip hop
No.
grannies. We got grannies
Mhm.
that suffered for being pregnant early on in life that wants to
Mhm.
explore different avenues instead of being grandma. We got
Mhm.
grandfathers that's been institutionalized so long they don't even know how to be a grandparent. We got a lot of
Mhm.
dysfunctions within our community and we're just finding solutions. We're not setting the tone to offend anyone. We're just setting out resolutions and strategies in order to progressively move forward.
that's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
have a
So
national
true.
helpline here, 1-800-662-HELP, 4537. It's a national hotline. It's absolutely free and confidential. If you're suffering from depression, you're suffering from a lost one, you're suffering from an eating disorder, this is a number you can contact, and feel free to get some help.
You
Yes.
know, it's funny you said eating disorder because I read an article one day this week and it talked about, I didn't know that bulimia and anorexia were common conditions in the African American household. I had no idea because this is not something we address, and it is very popular amongst not only African Americans but people of color. Like they broke it down to Asian Americans, including
Mhm.
Asians, Indians, Pacific Islanders, even African Americans. And it was an article I was reading, and I'll find it and talk about it when we get into healthcare. But basically, they were addressing the fact that, social media has played a big part in people not exactly understanding where they fit in this world, because social media has brainwashed so many ideas and so many lifestyles upon average joes, but this is not the life that we are living. They
No.
looking at things from celebrities, and it's so accessible now to pick up your phone and see what they are doing,
Right.
and
Before, back in
it,
the day, you used to have to sell a house and a car to even talk to a celebrity. even now you can
I'm
just DM
right.
them.
done.
You can
Right.
DM
And
them
it's
like, "What
just,
up?"
Or you had
Uh,
to write
yeah.
100 letters and pray
Santos,
someone read
thank
it.
you. Positive discussions,
Yes.
real issues, progression. That's right, Santos. That's what we on. We on another wave.
You know
Yeah.
what
That's
it
so
is
true.
though, Simona? They gotta keep up with what you can't keep up with that. Like celebrities have people cooking for them. They have people watching their kids. They have people driving them places.
Mhm.
Their main goal
Mhm.
at the time only may be to lose weight after they had a baby. So you're trying to look like the
Mhm.
celebrity after having a baby, and they might just be getting paid for everyone else around them to do all the work you're doing, and they're just
That's
working out to
right.
lose this baby weight. You want to look
That's
like
right.
them, but they don't wake up and do their own hair. They don't wake up and do these things for themselves. They're trying to attain
That's
They don't
right.
things
even
that
watch
aren't
their
real.
own kids. And
Yeah,
I,
they
And a
don't
lot of them
even
don't
raise their
drive. They don't drive. They have drivers. They don't have to think about
yeah.
anything except for the job that I get their actor and they have to learn lines. That's all they have to do. Their clothes are laid out. The house is clean. The children are taken care of. They don't have, and then you have a chef that will cook you the food that you need to lose weight.
yeah.
And people, the young people, most especially, they don't put that together. You know. And so,
But
and then there's so meanness. It's so much meanness.
Yes,
It's
Yes, I
really it's
remember.
an individual can't truly live like that.
Mm-mm.
Unfortunately, like, and that takes again a village. You got to have grandma come cook the meal. You got to have
Yep.
uncle to come watch the baby. You got to have auntie to come clean the house. You got to like you have a baby as a normal person that's not a celebrity. You just trying to steal some sleep. You
Yeah,
know,
say there
you
you
haven't
go.
even figured
Yeah,
out
You
how to
just
make
trying to
that
make
meal.
it.
You haven't even figured out how to go to the gym. You haven't even figured out who washing the car, let alone driving you somewhere. Like,
thank you, thank you. And if you have seen,
Everybody
yeah.
is paying attention to the instant gratification. That's the
Hmm.
problem.
uh-huh,
They're not looking at the Civil Rights Act, how it took 10 to 15 years just for us to have the ability to vote, just
right,
able to have the ability to fair housing.
right,
it took effort. It took effort. And that's what we have to do amongst the black community. Take effort.
mm-hmm,
Start being
mm-hmm,
kinder. Start
mm-hmm,
giving resources. Like Miss
mm-hmm,
Leona said, start communicating. It makes a
mm-hmm.
difference. You might have thought stereotype someone just because of how they might have looked, but don't know that they are full a heart of gold. Let's start communicating.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know what? You know what I would love to see that I'm absolutely tired of? I am absolutely tired of asking, or saying to someone, good afternoon, how you doing today? And they just fume. I want to see
And
us
don't
get back to answering that question. I asked you, how are you today? Like I have done that. I've been checking out in Publix before, and I say to the lady, they say, hey, good evening. I say, Good evening. How are you today?
Mm-hmm.
They act like they don't even hear you. So me, I just say it again. Everything all right? How you doing today? You having a good day?
So
And
you
they
didn't hear me the
rolling
first
their eyes. But I mean, by the time I leave, you
Don't
done
get
spoke
beat up,
back.
Simona, because people want to beat you up for kindness these days.
You gonna make them speak.
Like, I get that.
But that's an old prodigy back in the day. My mother used to make people speak to her.
Yeah.
Just like you said, hello, how are you today? And they don't say anything. She will do the same thing as you're doing. Speak it again. And another person was, oh, I'm fine, but she would make them speak.
It was back in the
If
But
day.
you
why? Yeah,
call
but
somebody,
Fine.
uh,
It was.
mhm,
It was a
if you
condition.
call somebody on the phone right now and you have the wrong number, they won't say, I'm sorry, I have the wrong number. They'll just hang up on you.
Or they get mad at you. They dial
I
the wrong
think
number.
we
Yeah,
You
we've
mad
been
who's
oppressed.
calling
We've been
me? Right?
oppressed so long that it seems like, oh, I gotta do it better, or I gotta hurry up and beat you. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
more of a competition more than let's collectively do it, because if we more stronger in number, we more stronger as a people. We gotta
Yeah.
get back to working stronger in numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 And listen to the older person in your family. Ask them questions, and they will tell you. They will discuss it with you. And then you can think about it and you can realize, well, you know what? That just might work, you know, and try it. Doesn't hurt to try and just
Yes.
see. It may not work the first time you try it, because never something first time you try it works. You have to keep working at it and keep working at it. And I believe if people would do that and have more love in their heart and care, they will find out that we can do this together instead of apart.
We more alike than different anyway. When you
Hmm.
break it, that used to be that's one of my favorite things. Like I love to talk to my grandmothers. Like I'm fortunate to have both of them alive. Both of my
That's
grandfathers
wonderful.
are dead, but both of my grandmothers are still alive. And just to listen to them, like it's sometimes they'll reflect and they'll talk about things that they know that they wish that they would have done differently in life. But when you ask them,
Hmm.
it's almost a spiritual healing because you leave with that knowledge. And that's what we're not
Hmm.
doing. Like the grandparents are not being grandparents anymore. Like I'm not gonna go into full detail, but I have some issues amongst, my parents with that. But thankfully
Hmm.
my grandparents are still here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's still a work in progress. It's
Hmm.
things that those generations that I don't understand. But
Hmm.
because grandparents are here, it's helping to bring that. It just helps to paint a better picture of what actually went on and in their day. And it's just you leave with that knowledge, and it just helps you
And
to
that's a
to
blessing. But I think we are the few that have our grandparents. I think I hear more today more than ever. Oh, I never met my grandmother, or
yeah,
or she
Hmm.
passed away. So I
trauma.
feel like
Right?
that's a lot. That's got a lot to do with our a mental awareness. Not having grandparents, not having the active parents acting as grandparents. There's a lot of people
Hmm.
that don't have that.
I don't understand
But
the grudging families, not talking to family and mothers and fathers for 2 and 3 years. I've been in that situation, and it's the dumbest thing in the world.
it is.
Miscommunication. It's ridiculous, and it's just a
It is.
state. It goes to show you the state of our mental health that this is a normal thing. So many people go
Right.
saying, what is it? What I need a friend for when I don't even mess with family? You sound ridiculous. Everybody,
That's that cool. That's that cool boat. They want to sound
yeah,
cool. What A Santos
yeah.
was saying last week. So many things that you realize when you get older. It just sounded cool. It's not cool.
It's
It's
not
not
cool
cool.
to
Mm-mm.
be out by yourself in this world with
But
no.
yeah, but like Simona said, the mental trauma has been ignored for so long. Now we normalize that. Like she said, F family. Oh, I'm in my bag
Mhm.
now. Oh, what I need a cousin
Mhm.
for, what I need a and in actuality, that's why God placed us for families. Every family member have a function in the role that they supposed to play.
That's right. That's
That
right.
money, that money is very, like, again, we didn't we didn't ask to be brought to this country, and you know what they
Mhm.
created? They created money. They created
They
something
did.
that God did not create. And
Mhm.
now everyone's fighting over it. They'll fight for a
They
dollar
did.
before they fight for their kin. They'll fight for a dollar before they fight for their child. They'll fight for a dollar before they stand up for the fellow man, getting mistreated down the block. It's really sad. And at the end of the day, even with the grandmothers, like, it makes me sad that people don't have grandmas, or that they can't speak
Yep.
to their grandmothers, or things of that nature. I used to ask
Mhm.
my grandmother as much as I could. I mean, I know she was probably
Mhm.
like, "Here we go again," but yep, here we go again.
Yeah, like
Because
Simona said,
I
when you
was
get
I
your
was a grown woman calling
you
her
get
every
fed.
day.
Yeah, you get fed.
I was
I
calling her
I
every
my
day. And they looked at me
my
like, "You're
grand
calling your grandmother?" I was like, "Yep, 21, 20. I'm calling
uh-huh.
her, yep."
We don't
My
even have.
grandchildren moved to Houston, Texas, and I went there to see them over the Christmas holiday. And my oldest granddaughter, who graduated this past year in the pandemic, when
Congratulations.
she
Right.
thank you, when she came in from work, she dropped everything and came right over there and laid on me. And I was tickled. And her brother said, Maya, so and so and so and so. She said, you got to give me a minute. And she just held on to me for a good 5 minutes. And I said, well, this child really loves me. And I felt so good that my grandchildren love me like that.
Yes. It
But,
takes a village.
and
That's the last
takes
episode
it.
we had. It really takes a
Mm-hmm,
village to conquer these
mm-hmm,
mental trauma illnesses that we have amongst our community. A village.
mm-hmm.
It takes a village. It really has an effect.
Yes, it does. It really does. Mm.
Because nothing has changed. The village has never not been under attack.
No, it's the
Like
people.
it's
Mm-hmm,
the people
mm-hmm,
Yep.
forgot.
mm-hmm.
Asanto's greed
They,
overruled everything. Yep. We have no more morals. We
yep,
selling we
No.
selling gay like it's a runway magazine. We
yeah.
selling
Yep.
all type of toxic things that we shouldn't even be even aware about.
Right. So true.
Yeah.
And the children are learning more than oh, I did when I was coming up.
That's true.
Parents have to not fight in front of their children.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, if mother and dad had an argument, you didn't see them argue. They would wait till you go to bed. And then they would have the discussion. And the next morning, you still didn't know that they was arguing because they didn't let you know. But people are arguing in front of their children, and children know everything,
Yeah, you're right.
things
It
that
used
they
to be
don't need
some
to know.
level of discreet. Now it's no
Uh huh.
type of discreetness.
No, no.
Y'all go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Here. Get this. Why did you wake her up?
Yes. Also, we have our Cash App down here, $ triple T sisters. Again, if you feel like being a blessing, that's our Cash App information. We will use all proceeds for a great cause. Like we said, we have some events coming up. Simona want to do a fundraiser for giving back the homeless, little care packages. We also want to give encyclopedias out, encyclopedia drive to some of these kids in impoverished communities to kind of give them hope and resources that they might have not had in the past. We're trying to elevate, and anything will be a great cause.
All right.
You know,
And
it's crazy. We don't even have the same kind of movies available anymore. Things like The Woman at Brewster's Plays. Remember that movie?
Yes.
So many movies that
So
conveyed messages that we need for community improvement, but you
right, and
don't
Mm-hmm.
like
see.
A.
Yep.
Michelle Cam said, children don't even know what to stay in a child place mean.
children
Yeah.
No,
aren't taught that. You have to teach them that because a lot of
you
times I
do.
see now you say that to an adult about a child and they're like, and it's like the you have to teach the child that.
Mm-hmm. You do. You have to teach them. And when my day, when the grown people got together, the children went outside and played. We didn't stay around. The older people listened to what they were talking about, unless they wanted us to, because then they was teaching us things, you know. Other than that, when a group of older people got together, you went outside. You knew automatically. I can't stay in the house. I got to go outdoors. So you just go on outside, and we would be glad to go outside because we love to go outside and play and jump rope and run up down the street and in the yard and flip and carry on. These kids don't do that anymore, and some of that has a lot to do with the violence of people shooting in the neighborhood, and that caused the parents to snatch the children into the house. And that's what caused them to start being separated because the parent can't deal with the child in the house with them all day. So they put them on the TV or the computer. That started that era.
Yeah, and that's
I
why
have a
I
niece.
don't even let my kids have a tablet. Everything is hands on. I want them to be creative. I want them to be
Yeah.
learning new adventures. I want to be having conversations when we sit down and eat. What do
Uh
you
huh.
want to be today? Every day is something
Right.
different. My son, oh, I want to be a police officer. Oh, I want to be a construction. Oh, I want to be a
Yeah.
every day we have different progressive dialogue versus if you put them on a tablet or the computer, they don't have any type of creativity or life. Only what's
Right.
seen in front of their eyes.
You have to have an imagination. These children don't have imaginations anymore. And in having imagination, you can develop things that you want to do and how you want to do it because you're thinking. They're not using their brain. The tablet, the TV is thinking for them.
Yeah.
If you want to spell a word now, all you got to do is go to Google and put it in there and they'll spell it out right for you. They don't know nothing about going to a dictionary, finding the word, sounding it out.
And
You
if we're
see?
not paying attention, this is a setup. It's worse than crack. They got us
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s with the crack. They projected that
Yeah.
that would be a trickle down effect for at least 100 to 200 years. And then now with the
Mm-hmm.
technology, they figured out that we smarten up. Most of us 80s babies, we wouldn't dare take a crack rock or anything because we saw firsthand how it affected our community. So now let's put the tablet and let's start controlling their minds.
There you go.
It's worse than crack.
Mm-hmm.
If
It
somebody
is.
can control your mind, it's just as simple as going to take that rock.
Yes. And also these children don't know how to count money. They physically count money without that register. If that register break down, they can't count to give you back change.
That's yeah. Is
The
that's good as
register.
Santos that you regulate in time for tablet reading, conversation, and art. Yep. Just
Hmm.
recently, I had stopped the tablet altogether. Like me and my husband had a decision. because we were just seeing the patterns of our children, like knowing too much and being aggressive. Like we not slow. We 35. We've seen a lot. So certain
Yes.
kids at 2, 3, 4, and 5, they shouldn't have access on a tablet. They should still be reading on phonics, hooked on phonics. They should be learning shapes. They should be learning geographic, what's on this side of the country, what's on this
Hmm.
northeast. Is a lot of other things before we even discuss tablet. Now,
Right.
because things are so accessible, we have to even be aware, because at every second I can't be with my kid on the tablet. They upstairs on the tablet. I'm not gonna be. What are you doing? Or what is that? I have other stuff to do. So I get them. I design different charts of the world. I have them pinpoint things. Like I just took the tablet at at all, ended it, because it's not serving any purpose for me. It's not serving, like Miss
Okay.
Green said, it's regulating their mind. There's no creativity. It's no
Hmm.
self development. Trying to figure who
Hmm.
you are because you're busy looking at the tablet, what people telling you how you should be. It's just a lot
Hmm.
going on with this technology.
Hmm. And remembering things. I don't
Yeah,
know if you
remembering.
all
Yep.
went. Yeah, I don't know if you all went through it. My mother, you had a dial phone, so you had to remember the phone numbers. We didn't write them down. We
Yeah.
remembered them in our mind. And she would say, "Well, what is so and so number?" And I could run a number up to her like nothing. You don't have to remember a phone number no more. Put the phone number in the phone with beside the person's name and hit the button and it rings.
Oh, Santos, that's good. I know you don't play. You wanna get your kids and train them the proper way. I know you not
That's
playing
right.
with them at all. That's right.
People look
Hmm.
at you crazy when you remember a phone number now.
Oh
Oh, I
yeah.
still remember
Hmm.
my house number 718-389-8855. That's Cooper. I still remember.
Your mother's
But
old number 718-495-1368.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm 30. I'll be
You
36 years old.
have your access code to the what was that, the mental hotline that you
Yeah,
were
let me
running
put
across
that.
the bottom?
Yeah,
And
I'll run
that's
it.
my address in Gary, Indiana. Different number,
Ah,
4573.
don't say that again.
Yes, Asanto, you have to teach your kids about history outside of the school spectrum. Because, like we had an education on one of our previous episodes, they're not even covering half of the knowledge that needs to be covered. They only covering the bases, like a person's Martin Luther King. They're not talking about Sojourner Truth. They're not talking
Mm-mm,
about George Washington Carver. They're not talking about a lot of prevalent people that did a lot of momentum things in this
too
country.
many
So
questions
that's
arise.
good. You teach outside the school spectrum.
it's true. I went to
Things
all white school, and all we learned about was Booker T. Washington. When I got into college, and I started going to a Black History class. I learned about other blacks that had invented things. And that's another thing that the drugs took from us. If you read the history of our black ancestors, so many of them invented things. The very phone that we are talking about is a black woman who invented the sound system with these towers that we can talk on these phones. The stoplight, the black man, just, put that out. And the drug messed with the black man's mind. The black man's mind is very creative if he has no chemicals in his body. He can think and he can work and he can help his family. I've always said there would be no hungry people on this earth if people would let other people use their talent. Every one of us on this earth, God has given us a talent. Look at what you all are doing. You started a podcast. That's talent.
Yes.
Everybody has a talent. And if the people in the world would leave each other alone, there would not be any hungry people on this earth because they use their talent to better themselves and make money for themselves and take care of their family. Jesus Christ was a carpenter.
You better say it, Miss Green. Yes, we got to go back to old traditions, even through life, we know with time is progression, but with those same old teachings, that gives us a better platform on how to make good decisions for generations to come.
Yes.
Yeah, they should be learning. Yes, brown sisters and
Mm-hmm.
brothers. Christopher Sam made a good point. It's best to
Mm-hmm.
start teaching your kids the laws of the country or the state that
Right.
they live in. Now we're seeing so
Mm-hmm.
much police and black crime more than ever, more than the '60s, more than the '70s. Today you can get gunned down in broad daylight by a police
Yes.
officer, and they get no type of a reparand behind it. So now we need to start teaching our children they rights.
That's right. That's right. And learn them about voting. These children don't know and I've heard a lot of people say it doesn't make any difference. Yes it do. Too many people died to walk up there and write their name on a ballot or pull a lever to vote. That is your right, no matter what color, age you are. Take your child to the voting uh, place. Show them, and they will learn. They will get interested. If you start young with these children, teaching them when they're young, it will grow up in them.
Oh, it sound he was fascinated by Jackie Robinson. Yes, that is always he sure did open an avenue for the
Hmm.
Latino community. That's what it's all about, supporting. If you can
That's
grab
right.
your brother hand and take him to the next his next purpose, his next journey, you have accomplished something. You have accomplished
Mm,
something. It's not about how much money you make on this earth. It's about how many lives you impact.
that's right. That's so right.
How to tell in order to know how to move and speak among the brightest minds.
Hmm.
The one before that, I was trying to read it. It said how to tell. Okay.
Anyone to be quiet and not be out of line. Yeah, it's always how you communicate with people. Like Miss Green was saying, you can always it's about your tone.
Hmm.
Communicate and understanding that you can get a lot of things accomplished versus being
Hmm.
rudely and unkindly.
Hmm. And he's right about the words are powerful. Your words are
Yes.
powerful. And it's the way you speak to a person. If you don't want somebody speaking snappy to you, why would you speak snappy to the other person?
Yes, that is so true.
That's so true.
Yeah.
This was such a good topic, y'all. I feel like we came across on a lot of issues amongst the black community. For one, we said a lot of the therapists, what is only 85% 85% whites in the psychology workforce versus 2% in the black. So what that means, we gotta start uh getting in these positions so we can better
Hmm.
diagnose these mental illness and take a better progressive of steps instead of letting someone else diagnose us and put us in the wrong directions. We got to stay focused, and we got to start getting in these positions that determine if we live or die.
Hmm.
It's almost
Mhm.
like you see us doing that in order of what is the most priority. Like where I live at, they just appointed 9 judges, all black. The neighboring county,
Mhm.
also the county that I live in, blacks in the justice system here in the South. And that's the next step. First is our justice system, and then next we will be, you see more of us in a medical system, the excuse
Mhm.
me, medical professions, and then next we need to get an education. We need to
Mhm.
it need to be overflow.
Yeah, we need more
That's
male
just where we at
teachers.
right
We need more
now.
African American male
Those are
teachers.
also black owned businesses. Having your own practice,
Mhm.
therapy, that's also black owned businesses. Having your own schools are black owned businesses.
Mhm.
So it's opportunity all across, when it comes to that. But
That
Mhm.
but
field,
yeah,
yep. Yeah,
in
we
the
need to
justice
yeah.
system and in the mental health sector of health
Mhm.
system, it is definitely a need for more people that look like us to be able to understand and help us. So
In
one
in
day,
in
hopefully
Flint
very soon,
here,
we'll
in
start
here in
seeing
Flint,
that.
in Flint here, we have the water crisis
I
going
can't
on,
hear.
and they closed a lot of places, houses, people left, but the water with the lead is messing up a lot of young people. But also, we had grocery stores that left the north side. So my pastor decided to start a grocery store, and he has been working 6 years to get it started. And speaking to black people in the community to join in to the grocery store like a co-op, a lot of them don't want to do it. But we have been blessed to now have 879 members. So
That's a
now he
blessing. Yeah, I
has
gotta jump on that now, Miss Green. I remember you giving me that
mm,
information. I didn't forget. Y'all too. Y'all can invest too. And I'm gonna
best
also
into
give
it.
the information so we
Yes,
can put a banner. Whoever wants to be a co-share in this
co-part.
grocery, black owned grocery, you can do so.
You said
I will be glad to get that information for you. Then and he is now starting to getting ready to renovate the building, which will start in probably June, July. And it hopefully with God's help it will be open in 2021. And he has hit a lot of pitfalls with companies that did not want to invest or give him the funds from community foundations and different things to try to keep him from having it. And it's still black people, I hate to say it, talk against the program. But
mm,
it's still going on and is slowly, and the pandemic slowed down a lot, because people couldn't work and stuff was shut down. So hopefully we will be able to be up and running by next year. And I will get that information to you so that you can put it out across the podcast. And anybody, no matter where you live, you can join.
The podcast. That's good. Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's been we almost at our mark. We don't want to keep people over 2 hours, but if anyone got any other questions or things they would like to piggyback on this topic, we'll take them now. Yep, respect goes a long way, Asantos. That's right. If you want respect, you have to give. That always been the golden rule. In order to give respect, you need to give it. Christopher saying, peace and blessings, sisters. I'm out. Good night. Stay blessed. God has a shield of protection around you all and the wind of righteousness behind you. Same to you, my brother. On behalf of
Hmm.
Triple T Sisters, we wish you a good night and catch us next Sunday, same time, same place.
Yes, thank you, Miss Leona. This was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I hope that I can come again. I
Yes.
enjoyed.
I
Beautiful.
love me some Miss Green now.
Bless your heart. I call her my daughter.
Yes, he do. We have a lot of
So I
good
guess you got another
mentoring and
daughter because
everything.
that's like my sister. So you have
Yeah.
All
another
right now,
daughter.
well, there we go. There we
And
go.
Simona too. And Simona.
Take us all
Yes,
in.
That's
You
right.
talking about
yes.
take us all.
I'm
When you
like,
take one, you take it all.
take one, gotta take.
Oh, that's the grateful white special.
That's all right. I take you all. You are all my daughters. I love you all. Keep up the good work.
Mhm. Peace
Thank you
to
so
you too,
much.
Santos. We appreciate you. You're one of our popular
Yes, A
listeners, and we really would
Santos.
like to thank you. You're always a pleasure.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Sammy. Awesome discussion as always. I had great memories of Yogi Bear and DeVoe Street Baptist.
Yes, Yogi Bear was the days. I didn't care what I had on. Put me on a purple shirt, a green short, a yellow sneakers. I'm out the door.
We used to win so many prizes, man. Remember they used to
Young Yogi Bear, you could receive prizes. They would have ice cream, all type of snacks. They would have jumping rope competition,
yeah.
everything, tug of war, everything.
Mm.
They would even circle around the block to make sure they wasn't leaving people. Remember? They would go, they would circle around the
I'd
project.
be like, where Marilise at? They circle the
I
block, come
sure
back
didn't go to
around. There she
many. I
go
went to a
running,
few, but you're right. Where
running
was
with
it?
Price. Like, don't leave me.
Yeah. In the street, no, come back. And then you be walking down with your head down. And then
We
you hear
need
that
that.
laugh
And I think
button
Triple
hit
T
that
sisters,
corner one
I'm
more
not
time.
going to put too much on us that God ain't going to give us, but I believe we're going to be a nonprofit organization one day. And God is going to steer us in the direction to be able to provide for generations to come, give them a platform.
All right now.
Yes, Lord.
Day at a
Thank
time.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a blessed
you.
week.
You
you
too.
too.
All right, daughters. Love you.
All right. Good night. Love you
Good
too.
Good
night.
night. Good night, everybody. Thank you
Good
again.
night. See you Sunday,
Good
next
night.
Sunday. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Good night.